President Trump submits his record $4.8 billion budget for the 2021 fiscal year to Congress. One America's Neil W. McCabe spoke with the White House budget chief Russell Vought to discuss the proposed spending plan and what it means for Americans.
Russ Vought is the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget, easily one of the most powerful men in the federal government, as OMB is not only the budget office, but also the clearinghouse for all federal rules and regulations. Vought told One American News that President Donald Trump proves in his proposal for the fiscal year 2021 budget that he is committed to deficit reduction.
Well, President Trump believes it's important to continue to focus on getting our fiscal house in order. So he's put forward more deficit reduction than any president in history, $4.6 trillion in deficit reduction. This budget continues along the lines of previous budgets that he has put forward. There's some new things in there, but it's a continuation of years past in terms of continuing to make sure Washington, D.C. balances its budgets like American families do across the country.
Vought was a senior Republican staffer on Capitol Hill, and he said there is support in Congress for cutting federal spending. The problem is, too many congressmen and senators have their own pet projects.
There's a good amount of support for the notion of balancing the budget with Republicans on the Hill. But look, I think at the end of the day, we're going to need to have a national election when it comes to whether the country, whether both parties are going to stand with this president to balance the books in a way that Washington, D.C. just hasn't done for some time.
The budget chief said the president is once again proposing to cut and eventually eliminate funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That includes the PBS television network and National Public Radio.
I think the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is the perfect example of this. It's something that we propose to eliminate. We believe that the time has surely come where these are places that could have their own private funding. They are doing substantial broadcasting of very popular shows at times. You think of PBS, Downton Abbey. They can't pay for the cost of that broadcast in its entirety. We believe they can. We believe that the taxpayers should not have to be absorbing the cost of content that at times reflects something counter to their views.
Because OMB controls all federal rules and regulations, the acting director said he is working to end abuses put on the books by the Obama administration.
This has been a major priority of ours, to get our arms wrapped around the administrative state and some of the guidance and blog posts and speeches that past agency heads have used to basically regulate the American people without notice and comment. And that's one of the things that the president has tackled by doing two executive orders. Number one, making sure that everything that we call guidance, some people call it the dark regulatory matter of the regulatory state, bringing it in to notice and comment by treating it as a regulation. So no longer will that be able to happen.
The former executive director of the Republican Study Group said part of regulatory reform is restraining out-of-control enforcement actions against regular Americans.
If you're going to do a guidance, if you're going to do a letter or any policy statement, it's going to have to go through the same notice and comment process. Similarly, we've tried to get our arms wrapped around the enforcement that agencies do to the American people, so that people don't have hanging over their head enforcement actions for many, many years. I think of Andy Johnson, who had 4 livestock ponds for his daughters on his land, that the EPA came in and said, you can't do this because it's a violation of our policies. And they had a $20 million fine hanging over his head, but they never really just went and fined him so he could challenge it. It just was kind of hanging out there.
Vought said, as a student of history and government, he is thrilled to have a job where he is no longer dealing in theory, but in concrete and practical actions.
To be in a position, to have the honor of serving the president in this position, and to be able to understand from the inside of how institutions work, and to be able to implement things that the president has run on, promised the American people. It is a huge education in its own right to be able to do all of that, but it's ultimately an honor.
Neil W. McCabe, One American News, at the White House.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.